Hello, dear friends. First time I decided to make a video, educational video in English. Usually I do it in Russian. I have a lot of people who are interested in Vastu Shastra. And now I decided to do it in English because I have some requests from you. Anyhow, I wanted to make it simple and accessible to anybody who knows or doesn't know about Vastu Shastra, ancient teachings of India. It's a theory of design and architecture. And it's very old. Some say that it's about 5,000 years old. And my teacher from Chennai, late Dr. Ganapati Sthapati, said that is more than 10,000 years old. Anyhow, I would like to introduce to you first how to clean your mind, to clear your mind of bad thoughts, and how to create a happy house. First, it sounds strange a little bit. Mind and thoughts. Where is the connection? So I would like to, for those who can't wait, who just wants to know the simple technique, how to get rid of your bad thoughts and how to create a happy house, I'll just give you some tips. And for those who want to know how it works, then you can continue and watch the second part of my lecture, which is going to be accompanied by slideshow. So I'm the one who wants to know how it works. When I know how it works and it makes sense to me, then I use it. So first, I would like to give you a tip. According to ancient teachings of Sthapatya Veda, and part of these teachings also coming from Tamil Nadu, Chennai, that's where my teacher was. He presented me a book in 2005. It's called Aintiram. Aintiram it's a very interesting set of sutras. It's about 900 sutras, and it's about how actually thoughts get organized, and how we create our thoughts and how we get enveloped in these thoughts or energies, and how they actually force us to do certain things, even maybe we don't want to do it because they dominate us, and how to get rid of these thoughts. For those who cannot wait, I'll just tell you what to do. So first you take a pen or pencil and you write down what bothers you. Let's say whatever you want to write, just write it down now. And I'm going to write my own thought. A fear. Everybody has fears. So I will write down. I am tired of not believing in my own strength. Okay, bam. Now I'm going to fold it, and you're going to basically put all your attention into this paper, and I will explain to you why you have to write down your thought or your fear of something you want to get rid of. You have to basically physically write it down because you imprint your inner energy, your thought, and you materialize it on the paper. So you kind of downloaded this energy onto the physical piece of paper. And then you take that physical paper and burn it. I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it after we're done. So when I burn it, you basically put it on these ashes in the ground. You just dig a little hole, put it there. When I was a kid, I had some warts on my hands, when I was a kid, and just a lot of them. I like to touch a lot of things, frogs and snakes. And my grandma used to say, she was a doctor, because you do grab all these things, you have this stuff on your skin. So she said, but anyway, you know what? My great-grandmother, she took a thread and made a knot above a wart. And then she took that thread with all these knots and burned it and put it in the ground, in the earth. And so we did that, even though my grandmother was real educated woman. She was a doctor, and she didn't believe in some superstition. She did it. So believe it or not, 4 months, I forgot about it. I was probably 9 years old. I noticed that all my skin was, the skin of my hands was becoming flatter wherever I had these problems. And all these things disappeared. I still remember that. And I thought, oh, years later, that is the power of a thought. So what I told you to write down things you don't want to be in your life, you burn it, you get rid of it, and it will disappear. If it doesn't disappear soon, you do it again. You do this exercise again and again and again. Not many times, actually. And it will help. I know it works. It worked in my life. Anyhow, this is how to get rid of your thoughts. You have to manifest them on the paper, burn them in the fireplace, maybe, or burn it and just get rid of it and just have dig a hole and put it in there. So the ashes are gone. So this is how you clear your mind. And it was a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. He was teaching powerful affirmations. He would say what you want to have in your life, you also have to write down. So you have a nice book, write down your good thoughts and keep them, and they're going to manifest. Because again, what you do, you write down your thought, a positive thought, on a piece of paper. It means you download this kind of file of energy, imprint it on your paper, and it's going to happen because the situation around you, this energy is imprinted. And so the situation is kind of has a base to happen in real life. So you create these positive affirmations by writing down thought by thought. Don't doubt that, because doubts are destructive energies and they kind of erase your dreams. So don't doubt, write them down and keep them in a beautiful book. So, and then how this is all connected to the house. This I'm going to describe in diagrams, because our thoughts are images. So images are very powerful. This is what I found in the scripture in Tiram and also in the teachings of Tapatya Veda, healing architecture or architecture of wellness. So I'm going to switch now my screen to diagrams I created for this lecture to show you the essence, how the thoughts get generated and how this can be linked to our house, because our house is like a big thought. Actually, it's your dream. You generated this dream in your mind, in your heart, and you keep thinking about it. So you have a house, you have an apartment, and so I'll teach you how to organize your apartment in that way when the energies of nature are balanced, and they're going to help you. So when you align your thoughts with your own inner nature, or you want to get rid of them, so you get rid of negativity, then you become aligned with the actual peaceful nature of your own self, because it's our core. And then how it is all connected to the environment of your home. So I actually took me years to understand all these connections of the power of your mind, of your dreams, and nature and the universe itself as a powerful tool which we have in our hands and we don't know how to use it. So I wrote this book. It's called Your Happy House, and I'm going to talk about this book because it gives you the essence in a very simple form, how to connect all these dots and how to make your mind clear and pure and happy, and how to create your happy house, your happy home. Let's switch now to the images. So it's right here. Actually, I'm going to switch my screen first. I need to share my screen, then you're going to see what I prepared for you. Okay, so let's go. All right. Okay, so Aintiram, this is the book which was given to me by Dr. Ganapati Sthapati in 2005. He was my teacher. He was a traditional architect. He was well known in Tamil Nadu, South India. He lived in Chennai. So I came to study from him how to design healing spaces and houses, because my background, I'm a civil engineer, but also in the United States, I went back to school and I finished a college in Maryland State. It's called Montgomery College. So I received degree in interior design. So anyhow, I went as an interior designer to India to study how to create very comfortable and peaceful spaces for people with design tools. So it's a long story how I found Dr. Sthapati Ganapati. But nevertheless, when I arrived in 2005, he gave me as a gift this book called Aintiram. This is in English, and the second book he gave me, the same, is in Tamil only. So this book was published in 1985 or 86. He published it and he gave it to me and he said, "Madam, you have to keep this book safe. This is the most essential." And as you see there, the translation from Tamil was done by Dr. Sabharatnam. So he was a friend of Dr. Ganapati Sthapati. And I made this photograph of this little stone with a perfect hole. It has a very interesting story. That's about the power of the mind, of the thought. I wanted to share with you. So anyhow, I came back from India and I started my interior design business with Vastu Shastra. And I thought I will be like just flourishing. So many people will be interested in these ancient designs. But I found that people didn't know about it, and most of them didn't want to know about these teachings. So I was very disappointed in the beginning, and it took me years before I got my clientele. But during that time, that was about probably September of 2005. My husband and I, we went to the forest in West Virginia for a hike to the mountains. So it was a little creek, and I was kind of walking. It was very peaceful, and this thought came into my mind. I decided to ask ancient architect Mayan, as Dr. Ganapati Sthapati said, that he was the ancient architect who brought these teachings on the planet Earth, the theory of architecture, which is in total balance and resonance with the nature itself. So with the energies which are seen and unseen to us, and known and unknown to us. So anyhow, and he gave me name Mandodari because he couldn't remember my name, Olga. So he gave me a name Mandodari. And I said, "Who's Mandodari?" He said, "Well, he was a daughter of this ancient, she was a daughter of this ancient architect, Mayan." So standing in the forest, I thought, I'm going to ask Mayan, how come nobody's interested in Vastu Shastra and all these designs? And maybe I'm not following my path. So I closed my eyes and I said, well, Mayan, in my thoughts, if this is my way, this is my path, can tell me if this is yes or no? So I thought it was just instant. If it is yes, then I should find a rock with a hole. If it's no, I will never find this rock. And I was standing in the little creek with bare feet in the water, thinking about it, and my eyes were closed. So when I had this thought, and I said that for some reason I decided that I have to find this rock with a hole, and that would be yes from Mayan. So I opened my eyes and I thought, where am I going to look for this rock? I just opened and I looked down next to my right foot. This was this rock. That was crazy. I just couldn't believe my eyes. So I had it for many, many years as a talisman, as a symbol of the power of the thought. And one yogi told me, you know what? This was manifested to you by Mayan. So I believe in that. because that was my little miracle, or maybe my big miracle. Anyhow, so what is the thought? How it gets generated? How do we get these thoughts? How do we get thoughts we don't want to have and they come back and back and again and again? So how to get rid of them? So the first sutra of Ayantiram, which was written in Tamil and translated into English, said, the subtle sound created from the transcendental pure space by the primal source of cosmic light pervades throughout the cosmos through its various phases of emergence. That subtle sound becomes characteristically known as Om. So this Om sound penetrates the entire universe. So I asked my good friend, traditional architect Ganesh Chella from Mahabalipuram. He used to work with Dr. Ganapati Sthapati till his death. And he was one of the last architects who was practicing with Dr. Sthapati, Vastu Shastra. Now he's doing this science on his own. I asked Ganesh to read in Tamil this first sutra, and I want you to listen how it sounds beautifully in Tamil.
ஒளி முதற்கண்ட விண்ணொளி ஓசை வெளி மொழி ஓம் என விளம்பர் பாற்றை.
That's in Tamil. Beautiful language. Anyhow, so this book, Ayantiram, explained actually to me a lot of things, and specifically how thoughts get organized. First, we get this flash of light inside of us, in our heart, actually, near our physical heart. This light is the essence of the future thought. Then the sound comes, and the sound is cannot be heard by physical ear, but in deep meditation, some yogis can hear that. And so then it starts pulsating this light with sound and in specific rhythm. And that rhythm creates an image, and that image is a letter. And so letter has a sound, internal sound, and it has actually color. And it's a lot of these details described in this Ayantiram. And then how the sound gets strengthened, and then it manifests itself in the material world as specific events in our life. So this is a very interesting book. In the description, in the introduction, Dr. Sthapati wrote a small introduction to this book, which has very interesting essential information. And I decided for myself to create a diagram that I could understand better what is happening in our mind and what is happening in the universe. Because I was told that the entire space is not a vacuum, even beyond our atmosphere, but it's basically filled with particles of energy. And these particles of energy, they have a name, paramanu. Para, super, anu is atom. So in the ancient teachings of India, there is a mentioning about this essential structure. They called it atom, but not in the sense of the modern and understanding of atom, which can be divided on the smaller particles. In the understanding of ancients, this was the primordial particle of light energy, which is unseen to physical eyes and cannot be divided. And so that particle is consciousness by itself. So the whole universe is built up from these little particles. And apparently, on the level of the kind of its own essence of the this consciousness of the universe is a cube. The cube is the shape of consciousness when it is at peace. That is incredible for me as a person who grew up in Russia as an atheist and became a spiritual person. That's how I call myself. But the whole dynamics behind the theory, the geometry, it was just mind-blowing for me. So I'm the one who wants to know how it works. So this lecture is for those who want to know how it works, because for me it really helps to understand how thought works And then I start believing when I have the knowledge in my hands. So anyhow, what happens step by step? Mula is time also. It's a root. It's a translation. It's the word from the Sanskrit, and there is a Tamil word for that as well. So mula is the root of time. It's the beginning of time. The time still did not start ticking yet. So your thought is just like an embryo. It did not emerge fully yet. It's just somewhere in the beginning, inside of you, in your sacred heart. And it's this particle of energy which inside of you as well. It's called Jivatma. So basically, in this glowing little particle of this consciousness of divine energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, the thought emerges, and it basically it comes out first as a dot. So the dot is a concentrated energy, and this is your intention as the beginning of the thought. Then what happens? This particle of energy inside of you, which is you, gets compressed a little bit. It's like imagine somebody who is getting ready for the marathon. So you kind of get together all your being, yeah? So the same happens inside. Your spirit kind of gets compressed a little bit. And there is a word for that. It's called amisdhal in Tamil, withdrawal. So you go deep inside into the beginning, into the core of yourself in order to create a thought. Then it surges. It surges outwards, and a string of light appears in this particle of consciousness. And that string of light, in Hinduism, they call it Shiva. So then this cube of consciousness starts spinning with incredible speed, and it's called imizhal. It's consciousness. It spins. That's why we feel very tired when we have lots of thoughts, and we say even sometimes, my head is spinning, because you're literally spinning on the energy level. So the spin happens, and then the mulam surges forward before the explosion. So you actually explode on this energy level, and you emit waves of energy, and you multiply your own self, creating these tiny little cubes of energy. And there's another name for that. So the replicas of our own selves, so our thoughts, our copies, what we are on that moment of time, it's called kumizdhal. So the replicas is umizdhal, emission of energy. So each of these subsequent particles are also capable of illuminating themselves and impelling themselves into action. So that's how thoughts, they get generated. You really create an impulse of energy. Then this energy gets structured around you into the grid pattern. And this grid pattern is like a big cube, and it has inside three-dimensional grid. So first it's flat, then it becomes three-dimensional, and it's called Manduka Pada Vibhagam. So it's then the sound which is coming from the flash of light, this inner light, the sound gets created. So then you can actually pronounce a word physically. So this is the process how your thought becomes a flash of energy, then it becomes a sound, and then it structures itself, and you are able to say that. So sometimes we don't have to say physically, we hear our own thoughts inside. So that's why it's important to write it down physically, your own thought on the piece of paper, because you download basically that thought from the subtle level of your own consciousness. So when you do that, you manifest that thought on the paper, and then you burn it if it's a negative thought. Because a lot of thoughts we generate, they're negative. and we can't get rid of them. They come back again and again like a broken record. So in order to break this broken record, the stream of unwanted thoughts, you have to write them down. So those who are haunted by thoughts or visions which you don't want to have, they drive you crazy. You have to draw. You can make even a picture of what you have in your mind. Don't be embarrassed of that. Draw that picture and burn it and get rid of it. So it will go away. It will walk away from your mind. You will get rid of it. So there's an interesting proof of this. There is a man in England. His name is Daniel Tammet. Some people heard about him. He has a seventh syndrome. So there is a whole documentary about him, about Daniel Tammet, and scientists are studying him because he has unique quality, ability. He can calculate incredibly large numbers. He can take square root of a number without calculator. So he's just a real phenomenon. So he actually recited for 6 hours or so pi number, which any computer cannot generate that length of the pi number. Okay, so the p 3.14 and etc. So he's a real phenomenon. So why do I talk about him? In the beginning of the documentary about him, he said, a scientist asked him, why Daniel, and to be exact, not why, but how, Daniel, do you know the answers of these divisions or multiplications? Where do you get the answer? How do you calculate that? He said, I don't calculate. He said, I'm seeing things in my head like little sparks firing off. And it is not until the very last moment sparks tell me what they mean. So he is talking about little sparks he sees in his mind, and the sparks give him the answer. And that is not some fairy tale. I mean, this is something you cannot dismiss. He is a mathematician, basically, incredible mathematician. So he doesn't really have a calculator in his mind. He hears consciousness. That is the proof. As soon as I saw that, as soon as I read this comment, so some people probably dismiss that and just keep watching the documentary about him, how it works for him. But this is the most essential, because that is the proof that there are sparkles. They are unseen to us, but he does see. Some yogis see. And if you're in deep meditation, you could hear your own thoughts. You can contemplate, you can get answers on your questions. So that's why the meditation is becoming more and more powerful. So Mayan Antirams gives a lot of information on this subject about how words, how letters gets organized, how letters are linked to numbers, how it is all gets created. It's a very interesting book. And so Aindu, Tiram, as Dr. Sthapati explained, Aindu means 5, Tiram means power or skill. So this book describes a lot of interesting details, including Vastu Purusha Mandala, the grid of energy, which is considered as a blueprint of a house. That's how we get to the house. So, but as a curious person, I wanted to know how the sound actually looks like, because a lot of Vedic literature talks about sound creating forms. So it was not clear for me how sound can create a form. So apparently sound has definitely a structure, but for those who are not familiar with acoustics, which I had no clue as well before, the sound actually is a bubble, and the bubble has an inner structure. And so there is a British engineer, John Reed, who created a cimascope many years ago. Now he's selling his equipment, and it's considered now as a scientific piece of equipment. There is a membrane of water inside of this CIMAscope, and the physical sound gets passed through the membrane of water, and water is a very sensitive substance, basically vibrates with the sound passing through, and it's based on cladding patterns phenomena. So then John Reid has a camera which is installed above the surface of the water, and it photographs this sound structures. So basically what we see now, I pen pal with John Reid for years, and he was kind enough to create several images for me. It was, I believe, 2010. So I asked him to create several images, if he could, of major sounds described in Aintiram. First was Om, so his wife pronounced with her physical voice Om, and that's what CIMAscope was showing. This is a physical cross-section of the bubble when we pronounce Om with a specific frequency or of the female's voice. So why did I ask about that? Well, because Aintiram explains that there are 5 creative elements, and they have in basically these 5 creative elements. They're also in Vedic literature called Pancha Bhuta, or 5 creative forces. Well, Pancha is 5, Bhuta is forces. So, and Aintiram explains that there are 5 vowels, letters, short sounds, a, I, u, e, o, and they're all in any language you can find. Yeah, this specific sounds, they create our words. So I asked John Reid to create simaglyphs. He calls these images as simaglyphs. So I thought, I know that there is a Vastu Purusha mandala. It's a square because this energy is in the cube form. So the cross section of the cube is a square. So it's a pattern of our future house, because that's how energy of space is organized in little tiny cubes. So our house is supposed to be aligned according to this grid pattern of the universe. So I thought, how interesting. So there are 5 creative elements, Panchabhutas. There are 5 important sounds in any alphabet. So, and they appear in specific order as well. So we could, according to Vastu Shastra, the essence is the space. The first space, they call it Akasha. So the first sound, so it's in the space as the essence. So we have ah. The next sound is E. And according to Vastu Shastra, the E is air, represents the subtle air. So, and it goes fire, water, and earth. So the sounds kind of written down in the sequence of appearance of Panchabhutas. So what happens next? This is the simaglyph of the ah sound. That's how it's in the water looks like. So this is the structure of the sound ah. It has beautiful passages. So it's a 3-dimensional bubble with this inner structure, and it has this center. So this is ah, this is e, this is u, this is e, and this is o. So this is those are the sounds, primordial sounds, and looks like they are associated with Panchabhutas. So this is all with the help of CIMAscope. So what I did, I placed the sounds according to Vastu Shastra to see what could be the potential structure of the subtle space, of the subtle air, before it gets manifested into the physical world. So these structures are basically the physical sounds, but they are after what had happened in the subtle world. So this is the manifestation of our thoughts in the physical world. So when we say something, what we think, we pronounce sounds. So this is the structure of the sound, so of major sounds we use in our language. So they might be the physical structures of their elements of fire, water, earth, who knows? So this is just an experiment. So anyhow, as I mentioned, the house has a floor plan, according to Vastu Shastra, either square or rectangular with specific proportions explained in the ancient teachings of Vastu Shastra. So there is another kind of subject to talk about the structure of the house. We can talk about that later, but I wanted to connect the house and the mind. So the house by itself has the space inside. So the space gets organized in the house in the grid structure. That's the basically inner structure of the space by itself, according to the ancient scriptures. So whatever we create in our mind has its own structure as well. And it starts with the grid pattern, and then the symbols of letters appear, and the sounds appear in the subtle space. So we really we create kind of like a holographic images of the our thoughts, and they are pictures. They are pictures. That's why it's easy for us to thought with to understand something when we have images, illustrations. It's easy for us because our mind generates first the flash of light with specific symbol. It's like a diagram. It could be also called a yantra, some kind of design, a holographic form. And then this form starts vibrating and spinning, and it creates sound. And the sound is the essence of the meaning of that form. That's how words gets organized. So house by itself has inner structure. So if it's built properly, then it's in harmony with you and with the nature, with the planet Earth, with the pattern, the grid pattern of energy of the planet Earth, and the universe by itself, because the planet by itself is aligned, and it has its own position in our solar system, and the solar system in the Milky Way, and the Milky Way, in our galaxy. So everything is interconnected. So our mind is connected to us. It's a part of our kind of inner layer. And also, there is a mind of the house. So the house has its own energy. So it has its own mind. So if we want to have a house which is aligned with us and with the energy of nature, we have to know specific rules how to do that. So Vastu Purusha Mandala is the pattern of the Vastu house, of the house of wellness, of peacefulness. And all the grids, they should be aligned with each other. So what I did, I basically wrote this book, and it's in a very simple format. It's kind of like pages are interconnected between each other, of course, but you can open at any page of this book, read on the left page explanation, and on the right page you're going to have illustration. So the whole book is basically illustrations and explanations of these illustrations. It's a very simple format, and you can grasp this information in its essence by looking at the images and reading very short explanation about the meaning. So it starts from the mind, of the pictures of the mind, the thoughts we have in our mind, and it connects to your house, and how your house gets generated by the power of the mind of the architect and by your own dream. So it gets combined, and then the house manifests itself first in your own dreams. Then you basically explain your dreams to the architect and designer, and he or she creates a house for you, or you buy a house which is created by somebody else. So hopefully that house is peaceful, but we don't know. So how do we know? We could basically learn the basics, and by knowing the basics we can pick a peaceful house. We can understand how to create your own happy house with this very simple small book, which you can read probably in a couple of days. So it's available on Amazon. I put it there. I hope you will enjoy it. And this is several illustrations from that book. So as you see there, this is a palm leaf. That's how ancient scriptures were written in India. And Dr. Ganapati Sthapati had in Tamil language a lot of palm leaf scriptures like that. So then it goes to the cosmos, how the cosmos is organized, how the string of thought appears in this little cube of energy of this consciousness, how it gets developed into the grid pattern in the space and in our mind. And you will read some interesting information in this book about National Geographic, which was published in 2014, discovery about the grid patterns in our neurons, the intersections of neurons. So it's all interconnected kind of in a logical way. It will lead you through how ancient architects and builders, they would look for a property, for land, how they would recognize if it's a healthy piece of land or maybe unhealthy. And there are some signs of it, so there is an explanation of that. You will find out about their very simple floor plan of peaceful house, how to manifest this grid of energy inside of your house and put your furniture and your bedroom, your kitchen where they are. So if you have a fire zone at the south east corner, then you have kitchen there. If your energy of the earth is at the southwest zone of the grid of energy in your house, then you have the bedroom there. So you go through all these details. Of course, you cannot create a perfect home if it's already built, but some essence is there. So and then you will find even where it's good to sleep in your house and how not to sleep, to which direction you should not sleep with your head, because the energy passages are there and you want to be aligned with them. So you will find all this information. So I hope you enjoyed this little seminar and you learned how to get rid of your thinking of thoughts you don't want to have, and how to create a peaceful space of your inside of your house. You know how to organize a simple space with peacefulness. Thank you very much. I appreciate your attention. Bye.